actual comfort, whatever I get or we get from that fellow partner, that's all that we're loving. We're not thinking about the Prophet's hadith, takathuru wa tanasalu, that reproduce, fill the world with Muslims, with obedient people, there's pride in raising a God-fearing child. That doesn't come into the calculus during the time where either the man or the woman say, I do. And if that does not come into the calculus at that point, then we're going to have a big problem. And this is an example of what the Quran describes as false love, profane love. يعني المحبة غير صحيحة. Love that's not correct. It's not salim, it's not sound. And because it's not sound, it will always take us down the wrong road. It will take us down the wrong road. And it won't bring happiness. Not for the Muslim at all. Or, I've also seen situations where an individual will just kind of make up the laws on his own, in the sense that at that point, I know I'm using marriage as an example because it tends to be something that comes up quite often. You know, he or she will just say, well, he's a good human being. Yeah, like nobody said he's not, but is that what Mawla Ali just wants from you? Is that what the Prophet just wants from you? But do you even believe in the Prophet and Allah? Maybe deep down that person doesn't. Deep down somewhere. Maybe it's just all been a sham. It's all just been because my parents told me. And then finally I have my freedom and I'm going to marry who I want, they say. And I don't care what my dad says and I don't care what my mom says. This is what is told, you know. Because deep down, these verses are meaningless. They don't mean anything. And then there's reasons for that, which are long list of reasons for that, right? Why do some young people just become so jaded with religion? They're so jaded and cynical and negative about it. Was it the way they were taught? Is it their media consumption? Is it their schools? Is it their friends? Is it the culture that was given to them? Is it maybe because their parents emphasized their secular education over their religious education, so much so? And then they want to kind of turn back the clock when they're 21 or 25 or 30 and want to get married, and all of a sudden they're like, Dad, you never really cared much, did you? You never took me to Azhar, you never took me to Majalis. You always said, no, Baba, you have ISU this week, right? Leave it this week. And then I've heard this. And then they turn around, the dad sitting, you know, saying, he's sitting with his tongue, with biting his tongue. Same with mom. Oh, no, but Maulana, he has a master's degree. And I turned to father and I said, yeah, I don't really care about that. What does that have to do with the Day of Judgment here? Here we're talking about whether the kids will be Muslim or not. Whether he's got a master's or a PhD, I don't care. Or a postdoc. I don't care. Allah doesn't care. Forget about what I care about. It doesn't matter what I care. Does Allah really care about that in terms of whether those children are going to be mu'min or not? Yes, be educated. Of course, we want our community to be at the best level, the highest level. But not at the expense of our children not being practicing Muslims, not fasting, not observing the rules of the ahkam of Islam, not believing in Allah, not coming for layali and qadr, or at least doing it at home, or having that sense of devotion to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I remember, I like these anecdotes because people sometimes can get the point of what I'm trying to get at through an anecdote, right? Not just the ayat of Quran. An individual calls me, and I get these calls all the time. Every day, week after week, these kinds of phone calls. It may look young, but I've been around in this for quite a while. At least over a decade, well over. So, individual calls me, says, Maulana, first starts with this whole introduction, Maulana, my child, I'm not going to say son or daughter because I don't want to, my child has this degree, keeps naming off this law firm, this. Okay, brother, get to the point. Like what is it that you want to tell me? Like, I'm like, are you offering me a job? Does he have legal services? Is he a partner at the firm? Mabruk, mabruk. May Allah bless you. Alif mabruk, inshallah. But you don't know me, so why are you calling me to tell me this? Like, not like we're friends or something, or family friends, or I don't even know who you are, and you're introducing your family in this way. Like, okay, fine, alhamdulillah, alif mabruk, nothing wrong with that. Like, I'm not judging, and the first thing I'm thinking in mind, why are you leading the conversation with the CV, narrating to me his CV, and how impressive the CV is, basically implying how impressive the CV is, how intelligent, how successful he is. Oh, but he or she, let's say, wants to marry someone who's not of the faith. Okay. So what did what you just mentioned have to do with this? And then, but the to-be spouse is also start, and then starts narrating off the CV, BA, MA, partner, this is on and on and on and on, right? High level, very high level person. So, and then he says, yeah, the only, but then I called, I did call him out, and I said that, none of this really has any bearing at all of what you've mentioned on the masala you've asked for about. It's zero bearing. Like, it has no bearing on this subject. He said, no, what I meant is because you're in education, maybe you'll be able to relate to him and stuff. I said, okay, inshallah khair. But I said, what does it mean if she is in this field? Like, that doesn't make it, because they're both lawyers or they're both doctors, like that doesn't somehow make it okay, but it seemed to be because she has such a great position, I'm just thinking like this comes back to the verse, right? Like, and I'm going to read it again. In the هؤلاء يحبون العاجلة ويذرون وراءهم يوما ثقيلا, that they love so much just this temporary things that they just throw everything else behind their back at that moment in the name of a CV. Or maybe the commonalities that they have because they're both, in the legal profession or whatever. I don't know. They just have chemistry from that. I'm not putting that down. It's good to have chemistry. We should have chemistry with our partner, absolutely. But not at the expense of raising children that are not Muslim or not practicing Shia. I don't know if brothers are picking up on this. I don't understand the calculus of people's decisions. Like, so what is it that I can do for you today? Like, what teachings of Islam, like what answer am I supposed to, or what answer is a scholar supposed to give in that situation except reciting this verse? There isn't really, nobody means to be mean. And then the second question would be, what did you teach your child to love when they were growing up? Go back, rewind your life. Ask yourself, did I prioritize deen and love of Ahlul Bayt for my children, such that they could not give me any excuse that today they want to marry outside the deen? Because of love, right? It's because of they're falling in love. And then the excuse is good human being, good this, good that, good that. As if there's, out of the, a billion Muslims, there isn't a good human being out there. As if only a good human being could be found outside the religion of Islam. That's not necessarily an excuse. And the beauty of the Quran is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls it out openly, straight, and without any, Allah doesn't do ishara in the Quran. Allah doesn't do ishara. Like in Urdu and Persian, there's ishara. In Arabic, there's very little ishara when it comes to these things in the Quran. It's very direct. Like in Urdu and Persian, ishara would be an indirect reference. In Arabic, ishara is direct very often. It's clear, it's wadi, it's sari. It's understood. It's not mutashabih. It's not something that can have so many different meanings to it. And for the second group of people, right, the people that loved other things instead of Yawm al-Qiyamah, وَجُوهٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ نَادِرَةٌ إِلَى رَبِّهَا, or rather, no, sorry. That is for the mu'mineen. وَجُوهٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ بَاسِرَةٌ تَظُنُّ أَنَّ يُفْعَلَ بِهَا فَاقِرَةٌ. That their faces will come on the day of judgment sour. Basira. Sour, like unripe. Or rather rotten, you could say basira, like frowning. And they're thinking as if their bones and their spine is going to be snapped. So group one, the Quran says, Allah tells us, is happy. Looking at their Lord, nadira. Nadira and nadira, two beautiful words. Fresh, ripe, and looking at their Lord. Which I already said is metaphorical. Group two, frowning, sad, awaiting for their bones to be broken. Or as if their bones are going to be broken. And the dividing factor between these two groups, right? The fulcrum that divides the two groups, the dividing, the qasim, the fasl, is what? One loved this world at the expense of the next. The other one loved the next world at the expense, not at the expense, they loved the next world and lived in this life through that love. So that love of the next world was the prism, the vision, the lens through which they lived a life in this world. And Allah presents both narratives in the Quran. And it's up to insan to choose which narrative they wish to fall into. That's our free will. Because we have free will at the end of the day to make our choices. Because choices have consequences. That every time we willfully have a real opportunity in life, things come up in life, but a real opportunity to engender and put in the love of Ahlul Bayt and the love of devotion and Islam into the hearts of our children or our grandchildren, although grandchildren is not our responsibility, it's the responsibility of the children, of your kids, not of the grandparents, but nevertheless, that we take that opportunity with love, with desire, with passion. Because we're planning for the next world. We want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be pleased with us. But if somebody doesn't believe in Allah, doesn't believe in the Day of Judgment, or this doesn't really factor into the calculus of their life, because it wasn't put into the calculus of their life when they had aql and they were growing up and they were going through changes and they were going through points in their life, because it wasn't a calculus that was put in by their families or their surroundings or their friends or their cousins or the people around them, then it's very hard at 24 and 25 and 28 and 30 and 35 to somehow make marital decisions or other decisions on that basis. It's much easier for someone then to work for an alcoholic company in the excuse that, well, I'm not selling the alcohol, I'm just in the, IT department. Or I'm just in the, accounting department. It's not allowed. Get into that discussion. But we live in this world. Come on, this is ridiculous, Molana. This is extreme. I'm not drinking. I'm not with them. You try to explain that the Prophet's hadith is very clear about this. And if they don't really have love for the Prophet, then they're just going to be like, whatever. You know what? This guy's, his explanation's not getting to me. He's quoting me hadith of the Prophet, but that's not enough. Because they don't love the Prophet. If you don't love the Prophet, you're not going to care. I could come and tell you 20 hadith from the Prophet, not you, I mean this hypothetical you, and the person will just be like, okay, yeah, whatever, I don't care. Doesn't matter. This is the problem, isn't it? And this is a very uncomfortable subject, isn't it? It's slightly uncomfortable for people. But this is the reality. Then we ask why, in some quarters, devotion to deen is waning or less or decreasing. I was working in an Islamic school, almost 800 students, for 10 years. So what I'm saying is based on my life and my experience. This is not based on only reading a book or Hosa or anything. No, this is based on my life experiences of what I've seen to be the case. Through hundreds and hundreds of real life examples in North America. So inshallah we take benefit from this month to try to reorganize our efforts, to improve ourselves and try to love the things that really will bring permanent and everlasting pleasure into our lives, inshallah ta'ala. May Allah give us that tawfiq, inshallah, to do that and to live by the teachings of Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And to raise our children to be salihin or salihat, to be pious men and pious women who live by the teachings of Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, and not to be among those who are ghayru daleen, right? And not to be among those who are misguided, right? But to be among those that are guided in the path of Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أحسن.